This one starts with a beery conversation with an old friend, where you're talking about all the paths your lives have taken and things they haven't taken. And I'm saying to my friend Matt, I always thought I'd live the life of the mind, but getting a doctorate was really not that important to me. And he just looked at me and said, "You are so full of shit." And he quotes from Moby Dick. He says, when Ahab says, "Move me not from the iron rail," that was you in graduate school. And I'm kind of going, really? But then I remember the 2x4. Summer I was working on my doctorate. I was also working at an autistic research center in Boston, commuting in every day and home. Then I'd have a half-hour dinner break, and I'd put a 2x4 behind my head, so if I started to nod, my head would hit it and I'd wake up. So it was a long, hard time to get the damn thing done. But I had a job lined up at Penn State Capitol campus. Out of my doctoral cohort, I was the only one that had a tenure-track job. So this sounded like a really good deal, right? I get my PhD orals, and I'm a god. And then I get in my car and drive all the way down to Middletown, to Pineford, the Ellis Island of Capitol campus. And it's late. I just have a cot and the contents of my car, because my 12 boxes of books have been sent to Penn State Capitol, and they went to the Capitol rather than this campus. And I decide I'll drive down the road. I get down to Steelton, looking for a pub or someplace warm and welcoming, and I see the old burnout Bethlehem steel mill, and I go, "Oh Jesus, what have I done?" I call my dad immediately. He's very supportive. So I work a number of years at Capitol campus, and you had to decide whether you were going to deal with 3 Mile Island when you flew out of the Harrisburg airport and circled over TMI. You had to decide whether it was going to matter or not. Well, I taught there for a number of years, got some things done, and then it was time to go up for tenure. And my wife and I decided that we better work on having a family, getting her pregnant, because if I didn't get tenure, we might never do it, and we wanted to do it. I get my dossier in over the winter holiday, and I'm feeling great. I'm walking through the snow, I remember listening to Beethoven's Ode to Joy on headphones, and it was my dad's favorite music of all time. And I got some refereed articles published. I got a panel at Eastern Psychological Association in New York, so I felt like I was doing really well. So did the people in my department. There was 4 other people in my cohort, and they were dropping like flies through the program review, through the division review, through the college review. And then it was time for the provost's recommendation. We had a new female provost, and she recommended me to the University Park Committee. It had never happened that someone that got that recommendation didn't get tenure. So I was hosted at parties. I was used as a tool for recruiting other faculty. I was basically celebrated extensively because everyone thought I was in, and no one had gotten tenure in this particular position before. And then semester's over, it's May, and the guy who hires me calls me and says, "This is the most difficult call I've ever had to make. The University Park Committee did not approve you for tenure." Now, for an academic, that is the worst possible defeat you can ever have. And I felt my knees buckling under me. And then I remember thinking, you survived Shannon. You survived the loss of your first love. You could survive this. And I called my dad. I don't know why I wanted to impress him, but I did. He was really supportive. But then my wife was pregnant. What do you do? So we watched 2001, 2010. We hung around the house. We did what we could. We drove through Perry County to try to induce labor. And when she finally went into labor, it was like a 24-hour labor. So we're like going, if my child had been a boy, I'm sure we would have called him Hal, because we're saying, as Hal's sitting in the womb and not coming out, open the pod bay doors, Hal. Please, open the pod bay doors. And Hal doesn't open them. And then Johanna is born. Johanna is born, and I am dancing in the recovery room and feeling better than I've felt in my life. And my job at Penn State was that, just a job. Just a job. But then I thought about being Ahab. I did harpoon the whale. That was Penn State. And what happens to Ahab when he harpoons the whale? He's dragged into the depths. And then I become Ishmael, bobbing to the surface, the shark-infested waters of not having a job and worrying about it. And then this little dinghy is there. And the little dinghy says, Elizabethtown on the back. I heave myself up into this little boat, out of breath, feeling safe from the sharks, and then realizing there's no water, there's no sail, and those are the storm clouds of middle age approaching on the horizon. In the bottom of the boat, though, is my dad's blue and white checked shirt. The one he was wearing when I came back from kindergarten or first grade with my report card that had at grade average, below grade average, and above, and I had ats like everyone else. And he said, move some of these over here, can you? Make them above grade level. I'm sure I cried. Remember his shirt rolled up his sleeve, his hairy knuckles pointing at the report card. But he'd also worked as a campus pastor for decades on the science-religion dialogue, and that's what I started to do for the next 25 years. I rigged his shirt as a sail, and that's what saved my life. That, and the angel of my daughter. Thanks.